Hello, I'm Toycat, and I can't stay silent about this any longer. There are two groups of people that are claiming the same land and acting as if their claims are equally valid, when in truth, we all know there is one side who has the much more valid, much more historic claim to the region, and indeed we have people who are actively trying to kill them for living in the place that they deserve to own, and I think that staying silent or neutral about this isn't possible, especially given that this is a place which is a holy site for not just one religion, but actually multiple, and so I think it's finally time we talk about Belgium. That's right, it's a controversial subject, but I'm gonna say that yes, Brussels may be a holy site for something that people like to call the European Union. Indeed, their parliament is there, alongside the Belgium, Belgian state, and indeed the third holy site would of course be the fact that there is a statue of a child peeing, so people who love to gather to watch children pee, they all come right here to this very same place to watch precisely that happen. However, despite this being a holy site, and despite it being a very controversial topic that people very much don't like to talk about in polite conversation, we need to discuss how the state of Flanders is being absolutely destroyed in the modern day concept of Belgium, and people who are proposing a one-state solution are really missing the point about how really it's Flanders who are in the right here. And in case you're not familiar, Belgium is a country in the middle of Europe over here, at least as far as the European Union is concerned, and the interesting thing about Belgium is it's unlike most places, it's not a federation of lots of different places, it's a federation of effectively 2.5, and if you've never seen them, this is, by the way, the Belgium that French speakers want to see, but the actual Belgium looks something like this. 59% of people live in the yellow area of Belgium. It's the Flemish region, Flanders, and that is, they speak Dutch over there, whereas in the rest of Belgium, they speak French. A small number of people speak German for fun historic reasons, and then in the official capital, the compromise between speaking French or Dutch is that they speak French with a little bit of English in there somewhere, which, although a part of me wants to enjoy, another part of me says, man, that is Flanders getting screwed on this one, right? Look at the number of people in this country that are Flemish, the people who, by the way, have the historical right to the region. If you look up the history of Flanders, you'll realize that they go back so far into history. This is Flanders in 1350 in relation to the Holy Roman Empire, but their history goes all the way back to the early Middle Ages. You can spot their territory forming as soon as the 7th century, whereas the other half of Belgium, the Walloons, the people to the south here, if you try to look back into their history, you realize that it basically starts in 1983 with the Manifesto for Walloon Culture. They had no culture of their own until 1983 is the only thing that you can say here, and I think it's really important to say that, yeah, there are two places that might claim that they have an equal footing in the matter, but the group of people who have lived there for longer, who have a claim that's 2,000 years older, clearly get to live there longer, because it doesn't matter who lives there now. I base my claims on places from 2,000 years ago, and I think it's disgusting that people don't think that. I mean, for instance, when I bought this house, I realized when moving in that although I put my stuff here, in reality, if whoever's family owned it 2,000 years ago did come to try and kick me out, I would have no right just because I bought it from them using money. And so indeed, I think it's worth saying that these darn French, French-speaking people in the south of the country, thinking that they have a right to the region just because they live there is actually disgusting. I find this is something that we're not talking out about. We're pretending that we can be polite, but you can't be polite about something as crazy and honestly infuriating as this. And in case you think it's worse, the reason that this happened, the reason these two countries are tied together, it's not because they get together so long. It was a European power imposing it on them. In fact, unlike in other places in the world, it's not just a European power, it was the European powers. All of Europe, including the Netherlands, came together to recognize Belgium as an independent and neutral country. Belgium didn't want to exist. Belgium was forced into existence by all of its neighbors who basically wanted a lovely bulwark, but it was a really smart idea. Basically, the big powers of Europe, the Netherlands, Germany, France, and the UK, realized that they had a neutral state in between them, then it would be near impossible for them to invade each other, and thankfully that worked really well, and we haven't gone to war since. But the the fact that European powers think that even for something as great as peace in Europe, which they achieved in 1830 with the creation of Belgium, but even for something as great and as wonderful as that, just creating something on this something which is so upsetting to people from the county of Flanders is kind of ridiculous. And in case you think it's bad now, in case you think, well, at least you might be stuck in a country you don't want to be, but at least it can't get any worse. You're gonna keep the Dutch part of the country, right? Well, let me tell you something even worse. the French speakers have not just decided to take over half of the country, but they've also decided to make this whole other thing. And believe me, I was disgusted when I learned about this too. I had to stop myself vomiting when I realized that French people aren't just the southern 40% of Belgium. They have their whole own nation state over here. This is absolutely ridiculous. Have you seen the size of this thing? Someone let this happen, but they wouldn't let the Flanders, the Flemish people who have 1300 years of history have their own nation states. Honestly, it makes me realize that we can have no true equality until there are no French people left. I mean, obviously, when I make my claim, because this is what Flanders used to be in modern day France. It's been taken over. It belongs to it belongs to France now, including, by the way, the cities of Lille. In case you're if you're ever in London, by the way, I've been to Lille a few times. You'll notice a bunch of Flanders things still in there. If you're ever curious, it's about like an hour and 20-minute train from London to Lille. It's one of the quickest places you can visit. And so when you're there, you'll realize it does have this Flanders identity. You'll notice it because you go almost anywhere. I'm going to pick somewhere on the spot and hope that I'm right. If you go almost anywhere in the city, you'll spot some form of Flanders imagery. Indeed, if we look around, you can see there's a man on a pole there. Something. And look at all the gold here. This is very gaudy and very Dutch feeling. But also look at this. They're not even sure what country they're a part of right there. They've got a blue and yellow flag mixed in with the flag with the stars, mixed in with the French flag. They don't know what's going on with their identity because it keeps changing. And in case you think like, well, that's not really proof. Well, their main station is called Lille Flanders because they're literally a part of Flanders right there. Their trains go out that way. And the fact is, the city boundaries literally hit on the edge of Belgium. Belgium got, indeed, if you look at Flanders, they've been screwed by multiple times by these French people. And I think that although, I'd love to say that I believe in human rights for all, as indeed we perhaps all should, I would say, maybe there are some people in the world that we should start, questioning whether they really do earn these, human rights that they claim to want. And obviously this is a very leftist position. I have been doing my leftist research. And so even though it might sound like when I say that I want from Germany to Great Britain for there to only be Dutch people and for all the French people to get out there, that might sound like when I say that I want all the territory to be one ethnic group, which doesn't make up the region. That might sound like I'm, suggesting that they be killed or something, but it's okay because, again, according to the leftist literature I've read, you can call for basically genocide in your words, but as long as you say that no, actually this means something else, it's totally okay. What I really mean by that is we need a peaceful political solution in Belgium, something which hasn't been reached, by the way. So you might be familiar with the Belgian political crisis recently, not the one from 2007 to 2011, not the ongoing asylum crisis, not the one where they accidentally forgot their king for a little bit. No, it's not none of those crises, although fun fact, I can't help but share this. I think it's wacky that the Belgian parliament just got rid of the king for 36 hours so they could legalize abortion, and then the next day they're like, okay, you can be king again, and so that's why they didn't have a king for a bit. Very Belgian, by the way. But anyway, so the other thing that is obviously true is the fact that there were 652 days where there was no government in Belgium, and that is an absolutely wild situation, but they literally can't even agree on a government. I think it's time to say that, trying to keep these people inside of the state isn't working for anyone. And although many people might look at that and say, wait a minute, this is a dangerous idea, I think it's also worth analyzing the idea that, okay, there's two different groups of people in the same state. How does any of that work? How does this country not fall apart? One of the interesting lessons that, to explain very fully how you can have in a place where genuinely there are the rightful people who own the land clearly and who are the good people that we all care and love about, and then there are the French. How do you make a compromise between two groups of people like that? If you were to have a belief that one is so much better or worse than the others, and they both don't like each other for long historic reasons that date back literally thousands of years, I think an interesting solution in the case of Belgium actually is you might not know this, but actually Wallonia has its own abilities to sign its own trade deals. This is something that I find to be a little bit wacky personally, but basically Wallonia, Walloon, and this guy right here, look at him. This fella right here, not only is he in control of the Walloon region in terms of a federation in the way that you might expect for, say, a US state, a Canadian province, or a an English country, a British country. English country. I'll be an American for the day and not understand the difference between England and the UK. What's the difference? What's the difference between London and England? I don't understand anything. But anyway, so the important thing is to mention for a second is that when it comes to Belgium, they actually they have an interesting solution here, which is that with from 1831 and the federalization, Wallonia has been asserting itself, blah, 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 blah. But basically, the country can sign its own international agreements. Wait, actually, international relations. There we go. So one of the interesting things is they actually can sign their own international agreements. They sign their own trade deals. They do basically everything independently, except things that need to be done by the two places together. So the railway company operates across both borders, for example. However, the way that you can have a shared state of autonomy, despite basically not getting along with each other, so much so that you'd rather have no government for almost 2 years than have a bad government. And indeed, this was by the way, the EU was used to a caretaker prime minister for at least since December 2018 all the way to October 2020. But the idea that you could just have no government and then you could try to have as many things be devolved as possible while admitting that there are some things that could be shared is actually a very reasonable way for people who don't like each other to get along in the same country. This is what happens inside of the United Kingdom. This is what happens within, indeed, if you look at certain US states and certain Canadian provinces, this is how places that really don't like each other can get along with each other. And honestly, people act like it's such a compromise of like, oh, we might have to live together in the same place. It's like, no, don't make me do it. I'd rather bomb you than live in a place of you. But personally, I think that's a reasonable compromise. And yeah, this entire video was about Belgium. I have no idea why some people would make parallels to anywhere else in the world. But what I will say is I hope that you enjoyed it. And also, just a reminder, the Ninja 14-in-1. Again, the foodie pro, this was a thing that I praised highly. If you are living by yourself especially, and you want to get into cooking, or even just cook the stuff you have in a more energy efficient way, the Ninja Foodie 14-in-1 was amazing for me when I lived in Vegas. That's why my Vegas finger's up there. But I found this to be an incredible tool for that. And the fact that it is on sale for Black Friday at $114 for 14-in-1, that's $10 per cooking appliance. I'm actually, funny enough, I referenced how I loved this when I was in America. Right now, I just have, I don't have one. I have an air fryer, I have a slow cooker. They're two separate devices. And my slow cooker, I left it on overnight, and instead of cooking my food too much, it just kind of undercooked it. And so my whole house smelled like fish. Don't ask why I was slow cooking fish. I'm learning a lesson from that. And so I want to get my hands on one of these. However, in the UK, sadly, you have to accept 10-in-1. I don't know what functions have gone missing from the one in the UK, but this is the one I shall be buying. It's £138 instead of the previous price of $249. And although it sucks that this is the thing about like almost everything that is like a heavy appliance is much cheaper in America, in the case of this, it is a very good deal that you can get for Black Friday. Check the link in the description. I will hustle hard for air fryers if that's what it takes to get peace in the middle Europe. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, except I'm just kidding. I hope you had a terrible day and someone you care about says something mean to you later. Unless you subscribe to the channel. Just kidding. Second channel. Don't care. Bye.